The tables have apparently turned, and we have a new update in the Elias Lindholm Calgary Flames saga.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jess Belmosto, and thank you so much for joining me here today. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on YouTube as well. We are free across the board, and who doesn't love hockey content during the dog days of the off season? Today, we are going to be talking about Elias Lindholm and how he may be returning to Calgary long term. Tyler Toffoli sharing some stories on Spittin' Chicklets that we got to talk about. And of course, some news and notes from around the NHL. Up first, we have the update on Elias Lindholm that I don't think many people were wanting. It sounds like Lindholm's agent and his team has re-engaged in conversations with the Flames. And Frank Seravalli on Daily Faceoff's podcast said Calgary is still making a pitch, still making a push to get Elias Lindholm signed. And I think it's unfair to say that it's been significant progress made, but I do think that perhaps the Lindholm camp is listening a bit more intently than they were back when the summer first started. So I think that there's a door open for the Flames to sign Lindholm. And I think they're hoping that if Lindholm resigns and if the team gets off to a better start, that you're going to see increased buy-in from some of these other guys. Okay, that's all well and good. You know, that looks really good if you want to still have Elias Lindholm on your team. It's hard because, you know, obviously the agents have to do their job. The agents have to go out there and, you know, kind of test the waters a little bit, see what the market is. And no one is going to pay Elias Lindholm what the Flames are offering him. Even that, it feels like a little bit of a steep overpay if it does go north of $8.5 million. I'm horrible at projecting contracts, but I just know that it's going to be an overpayment. You're signing a player for a long time, a long-term deal. He's aging. Why are you doing that? Don't you have enough money tied up in these older players? But it doesn't feel good, right? We felt like there was some sort of buy-in to this retooling, not committing to a rebuild sort of vibe that the Flames were giving. You know, they've said that they want nothing but the young guys up, and you know they're gonna earn their spot on the roster, and the team is going to get younger. But how are you going to do that when the guy you're signing is almost 28 years old and you're probably signing him to a 7-8 year deal? Like, to me, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, Elias Lindholm is like a few months older than me. I could not tell you. I would hope to God I was not at my same day job and living where I'm living right now in 8 years. That's terrifying. Are you kidding me? But this is what obviously athletes sign up for, and this is what like they commit to. But you really have to think, do you want to be stuck where you have been trying to get out of? For the Flames, not for Elias Lindholm. Like, take him out of the equation. Keep him in it. But Elias Lindholm is a good player. He is not elite. He is a solid two-way forward. Could teams use him? Yes, absolutely. Can teams afford him? No. And that's the bigger part of this conversation is, yes, anyone could use him, even if it's just a rental, but they're not looking for a rental situation. They're looking for that sign and trade or trade and then extension that's already agreed upon sort of deal. But signing him long term just keeps you where you are and what you've been trying to escape. You don't want to continue to be in this mediocre middle. You are not like, this isn't like the middle of an Oreo where it's like the best part. It's not a good place to be, okay? Like, we all agree that it is tough being picks 16 through 25 or whatever, right? Like, starting at pick 15, 16, it doesn't really bode well for you most of the time, but things just don't feel good. If that is the case, I have nothing but respect for Elias Lindholm and his family. I think that he's a great person, but it's time for the team to get younger. You just got to commit to it. Also, Seravalli confirms that Noah Hanifin is not re-signing. There's no changing his mind, regardless of how good this team is, which is fine. I get it. He's earned the agency to do that. Oliver Shillington is one of those guys that's going to be judged, assessed, based on how he adjusts back to the organization and the game in general after a year away. To me, that isn't anything that it seems out of the ordinary. I think it's fair, even if it wasn't a contract year. You want to obviously set your team up for success, but you want to set this guy up for success as well. He has been through the ringer, and he hasn't been shy about sharing that. You have to make sure that this is what he wants and what you're best equipped to deal with. I am very interested to see these wait and see vibes in that train we're getting from like Chris Tanev, Dan Vladar, Nikita Zadorov. And to me, that's very interesting. I do feel like Zadorov is going to be the first one to sign an extension. Maybe not before Lindholm now, but he was my first bet. Makes no sense for the Flames to keep both Vladar and Markstrom. And we know they're not moving Markstrom. But coming up next, we are going to talk about some more Darryl Sutter revelations. And the more that comes out, the more I just want to shake Murray Edwards and ask him what is going on. But first, I do want to take a quick second here to talk to you about a micro habit that you can turn into a part of your regimen that will make your tummy, your skin, and your brain all better. AG1 is the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health. I started drinking it because, again, I have a bad stomach. I want some sort of regulation when it comes to my stomach. I just want to feel better. I don't want to feel gross in the morning when things happen. And I think that it's a great way to start the day. I enjoy just drinking it on the go. I take it in my little to-go cup on my way to work. I drink it, and I drink it really the whole morning. And it gives my body the nutrition it craves. And since I've been taking AG1, I have noticed that I do see the benefits. My hair is getting longer. I feel better. I feel like I don't have a crash throughout the end of the day. Like, there's none of that. And it's great because it replaces your multivitamin, probiotic, and more in one simple drinkable habit. It is a science-driven formulation of vitamins, probiotic, and whole food sourced nutrients. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to ag1.com/NHL Network. Again, that is drinkag1.com/NHL NHL Network. Check it out. Thank you, everyone, for sticking around with me here today on Locked On Flames as we carry you through the off season and make our way. It is almost the end of August. The Flames have not played a hockey game in over 4 months. We have made it. What once felt like an impossible journey, we're almost there. The light at the end of the tunnel, we're starting to poke its head out right now. Oh boy. So Tyler Toffoli went on a podcast and shared his some of Darryl Sutter-isms, I guess you could call them. They were referred to as funny stories, but I don't really know if they're funny. I mean, telling your players after 20 minutes of it tied at 0 game that they're going to have to, go to the practice facility in the morning on a day off and like threatening them with that and saying things like, oh, guess you want to go to Winsport. Oh, we got to go to Winsport tomorrow. Is so like I get it. There's a way to motivate your players. Not after 20 minutes when it's 0-0. Some games just start slow. And I don't know if the Flames really needed another person in their ear telling them, oh, you think you're tired now, wait until you have to get up and drive the 20 to 30 minutes to outside of Calgary to Winsport, and then you got to practice, and then you got to drive back, and then this was supposed to be your day off, but no, you have to work. And that makes sense when it is a horrific loss. When you get the doors blown off of you at home and the next day is supposed to be an off day. No, to me, that makes sense. Telling your players, in the third period, you're down like 4-0. Like, you need to be at the practice facility, Winsport, 8 a.m. sharp. That's honestly probably late for like a morning practice. I don't know. I feel like morning practices are always so early, but it doesn't make sense to me to just kind of nag them. That's not a good motivational tactic. And I feel like if it didn't work the first few times, it was never going to work. The one thing that really got under my skin was how he would tell Dan Vladar to get ready because Markstrom isn't game ready. And it would be 20 minutes. It would be just after the first period, nothing. Markstrom is holding down the fort, clearly, because it's 0-0. And you have a coach saying, oh, well, why don't you go up there since he can't do it? And not only does that psych your players out, it sends a really poor message that no matter how well you think you're doing, you're not living up to my expectations, and I can change that at any second. Be so serious. It is not that is not an effective coaching method, okay? Like, there were absolutely times in youth sports where coaches would use that kind of mentality, like, oh, you guys showed up late to practice, or, you had a really bad game, you're going to do an extra lap or two around the softball field. Oh, you didn't have a good defensive outing in soccer? Great. Look what we're going to do today. We are only going to practice defensive drills. And these are great ways, obviously. They're effective ways when they're executed right. I do not think trying to psych Jacob Markstrom out like that did any sort of benefit to Jacob Markstrom. If anything, it was pure detriment. And Jess, how do you know that? Look at his stats from last season. If it was any sort of like lighting a fire underneath him, you would not have seen the performance that we saw. And I'm not saying that athletes need to be handled with kid gloves and we need to be soft around them or anything like that. No, you need to know how to coach to them, not destroy any ounce of confidence that they may have, especially for a goalie that showed struggles pretty much the whole season. He did not have a chance to stand up and get on his feet before it was kicked back out from under him. He never had his footing. Every chance he tried to stand up and shake it off, no, he was pushed back down. And to me, that is unacceptable. That is not an effective way to coach. That is not how you want to be treated as a player. That's so disrespectful. And the more that comes out, the more I really want to know why Murray Edwards let this go on for as long as he did. And why he just turned a blind eye to it. And yes, of course, it's not physically harmful, but it is affecting people's, mental states when it comes to the game. We literally saw it with our own eyes. How defeated these players were. Do you think that telling players for the 6 weeks straight that they have to drive 20 minutes out to Winsport to practice on a day off is gonna get them to play any better? I don't. And you can't motivate people who aren't set up for success like that. You can't just light a fire under one person and expect it to catch. There was nothing. There was nothing for that fire to catch on last season because they were kicked down every chance Darryl Sutter got. I want to know what those exit interviews were like. The more that comes out, that's really what I need to know. I want to know what all of these players had to say about each other too. I would love to know that. About the dynamics, we know that there were screaming matches, but then we find out what Darryl Sutter's muttering about behind the bench and how he's trying to engage and entice his players to play better while doing psychological warfare on his goaltenders. Folks, it's right there. The answer is right in front of us. How did things go so wrong? We have laid it out for you time and time again on this podcast. Other Flames content creators, journalists, digital creators have done it as well. This is nothing new. The picture just keeps getting clearer. It's unfortunate, but that is just the way it is. And ownership sat by and watched their team that they put all this money into be torn to shreds, to go through the shredder, to have gasoline dumped on them and to someone light a match and walk away. That is what happened last season. And now I'm just getting really upset because this team deserved so much better than the games that were played in the locker room last year. And coming up next, we are going to wrap up the show with some news and notes from around the NHL, and Trevor Zegras still isn't signed, so we got some discussing to do. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with me on today's episode of Locked On Flames. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. I had completely forgotten that Trevor Zegras is one of the RFAs that remains unsigned. Interesting, of course. You think Trevor Zegras is one of the flashier, producing younger players in this league, and the Ducks have a decent amount of cap space to sign him. They haven't done anything. Zegras told NHL.com, obviously, this is why you have people in place to handle this type of stuff. In the summertime, I just have to keep doing my thing, what I've always done, and that stuff should take care of itself. He's not wrong. I mean, that is why your agent gets a percentage of things, your lawyer gets a percentage of things, and you got people on a payroll. He's currently living out in Connecticut and spending time with Chris Kreider in Stamford, Connecticut, playing and training and whatnot. So to me, that's really nice and exciting. He gets as far away from work as he possibly can. And that's a great way to disconnect. And you're probably thinking, well, how did the Ducks sign Troy Terry to this extension before Trevor Zegras? Trevor Zegras doesn't have arbitration rights this season, the same way that Troy Terry does. So it was a matter of, do we go to an arbitration hearing and have someone pick our number, or do we just do it ourselves? With Troy Terry. With Zegras, you have two teams, the Ducks and Zegras' people, trying to come together and meet somewhere in a happy medium. There's no arbitrator there saying, this is what this person who makes similar numbers is making, and, well, maybe there is a little risk here, so, look at that contract and we're going to meet in the middle. I want to know how far off these two camps are from each other. I need to know. Jamie Drysdale is also an RFA that remains unsigned. What are we doing? What are the Ducks doing? I want to know, are they potentially trying to move someone? Not either of those two. Are they trying to create more cap space? What are they doing? Zegras hopes that the signing of Terry means that he's next in line. I mean, I would hope so. It's not like standing at a deli when you have a number and you know you're next. Zegras has said that he will not return to Anaheim until he has a new contract. That sounds fair to me. He has it made out in Connecticut right now. He has access to a number of facilities. He's training with Chris Kreider. He's very close to Boston and New York. So there are plenty of resources there for him. A lot of players stay in that area during the off season as well. So he is just going to enjoy his RFA summer and cruise into a contract, as he should. Brandon Hagel signed an 8-year, $52 million contract with the Tampa Bay Lightning today, and that has an average annual value of $6.5 million and begins next season and runs through, this does not sound like a real year, 2031, 2032. Unreal. Not real years. We'll be in the 30s again. Remember once upon a time when the Flames were interested in Brandon Hagel around the trade deadline and they didn't end up adding him? He's only had one 30-goal campaign. I don't know if spending that kind of money is worth it. I mean, no shade to Andrew Mangiapane, but he got paid after he had that season. Where's the rest of it? And, I just think that the more that the cap goes up, we're going to see contracts that look really bad because they're more expensive, but they're still like proportionate to the cap, because that's just the way things work, right? Also, Jonathan Toews is stepping away from hockey. He's in poor health, battling some autoimmune issues, and I believe that this has been going on since before COVID, or like just before, and then it kind of increased when he got COVID. I'm not going to sit here and yearn for his glory days. We know what he did, what he took part in, and he mocked it. I hope he feels better, and I hope he never touches an NHL roster ever again. But his number will be retired by Chicago, along with Patrick Kane, and we just have to live and learn from something so awful. But that does it for me here on today's episode of Locked On Flames. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show. I also wanted to share classroom lists. So if you have like an Amazon wish list or anything as a teacher, please feel free to send them over to me on Twitter, Instagram, at Jess Belmosto, or LO_Flames pod. That way I can promote you guys in the show notes. And hope to do that as the school year kicks back into gear. And I will be back tomorrow with Nick, so you know it's going to be a good one.